Morning, everyone. I'm Rohit Singh, a cloud evangelist. Oh, evangelist is a big word. I'm still a learner, and I'm learning web hosting and web designing since the year 2000 during my college days, and I'm still learning. And today, I also want you to go through this journey on how to set up a virtual machine which serves the purpose of hosting multiple websites. Yeah, and it's just like how you get one through a commercial web hosting providers. So why not you end up building one for yourself? Probably you can even commercialize it. So, a web hosting provider gives us something like an instant provisioning mechanism to build our own servers on fly, allocate storage, disk, databases, whatnot, and choose your own operating system, get a free management panel on likes of cPanel and Plesk, perform server management, have full root access, and a cutting edge protection along with a private network. What's the interesting part? You get all of these at the lowest cost possible. Yes, it's difficult to believe, but that's the reality. And for today's journey, I'm going to use Google Cloud Platform GCP to put forward the use case of building a VM for web hosting. And with cloud computing, the power is in our hands to control the environment and resources, which is cost effective, available on demand, can scale elastically, is highly available, reliable, yet secure. So now, if we look at the current mode of operations, which is more like a problem statement, well, every story starts with a problem, isn't it? So the current mode of operations for me was actually a situation wherein I was getting emails to from my existing hosting provider to renew the contract. And what was I hosting? What I was using was just a block of space to host 5 personal websites with not a much of traffic coming in, not very CPU intensive sites. Uh, it not only has static but also dynamic content. Was also hosting a couple of WordPress sites on that server, a virtual private server per se. It had Apache, FTP, Mail, MySQL servers, and the actually utilized space was within 10 GB. I was not allocated a public IP. That was a bad thing there. It was kind of a limitation because if my domain name service is not working, then I can't even reach my server. So public IP definitely helps at times. There were instances of slow response as well, and it is definitely expensive to renew. So I selected Google Cloud Platform Compute Engine for a general purpose VM instance with the following configuration. The machine type being uh, just the F1 micro, the first machine variant available on GCP, which has a one shared virtual CPU, a mere 614 MB memory, but all dedicated to this machine, not shared with multiple tenants. And it comes with a 30 GB SSD disk and not a standard hard disk. And the Linux version, which I selected, was CentOS 7. Uh, I also had the option to select a static public IP from the available pool. All this came at a price bundle of within actually less than $10, just $8.98 a month. The most uh, beautiful thing here, the moment you sign up for GCP for the first time, you get all this and more for free in the first 12 months. So if you just look at this web hosting side, you have an instant saving of 107 odd dollars. Well, if you look at that, are you not interested? And well, don't get confused that you only get one shared virtual CPU or a 614 MB memory. Remember, I am hosting personal sites with not much of CPU or memory intensive apps or any high traffic hitting the server. However, I always have that option that if in case, well, I would definitely like to have more visitors. So if there is a need to upgrade, I can do it on fly to the next variant or even above that in the blink of a minute and not a very substantial increase in the price. So but depending on your usage, your requirement, you are free to start with a machine type disk or operating system fit for your purpose. And if you seek my advice, recommendation, I would always request you to start small as you have the option to scale as per the business growth or requirement. And did I talk about any prerequisites? No, right? Because there are not many, and hence I didn't want to confuse you at all. Going along, we will learn about the Linux commands that we would need, and there is always a wealth of information available on this phenomena called the World Wide Web, started by Mr. Tim Berners-Lee. So again, a big thanks to him. It's because of him that we all are interacting. So let me show you this simple architecture diagram. So if you are a visitor using a laptop or Android phone or an iOS phone, or even if you are the admin, you are going to hit the Google Cloud Platform using the domain name of your website, which is hosted on this web server. So first you hit, actually there is a firewall as well, which is kind of transparent. But yeah, I'll also take you through the firewall rules. How do you allow that traffic? So you will in turn hit the Cloud DNS service on the Google Cloud, wherein if the zone exists, the DNS name is configured to point to a public IP of this compute engine which you have reserved, and there exists an A record. Then the Apache web server, which is in the back end, and in front there is a reverse proxy server of Nginx, which will give better speed and it is very low in utilization of CPU or memory. You get a very quick response back out to your users. So, if you talk about Nginx, Nginx is used by sites which gets hits like thousands in a second. And just with Apache, you can't get that performance. So that's the reason you would definitely need to go for something like Nginx, especially when you are starting with something as low as a one CPU, virtual CPU, and a 614 MB RAM. So Nginx is something that you should always go for. You should also run something like bind DNS server on your virtual machine, MySQL variant, MariaDB, uh, mail server there, SMTP server, and definitely a FTP server to upload your files. Yeah. So this is the core network uh, platform that we would like to build in this short session today. So let's roll it now. As I have mentioned some time ago, don't worry if you're not familiar with the Linux commands. Just blindly follow the instructions as we go along, and you can always research about those commands in depth. And there is a plethora of information available out there on the internet. Yeah. So let's start with uh, how you set up the GCP account. It all starts from there after we understand the problem statement and the proposed solution for the future mode of operation. So the first thing first, let's start to set up a GCP account. For that, there is a prerequisite. It's not very difficult to attain. You need to have a Gmail account. So most of us have that. The only other step that you may have to take is to add a credit card to it. Well, if it is free for 12 months, 1 year, why do you need the credit card? Well, Google or any other cloud provider would definitely like to get an assurance that once that period is over, or if you exceed the allowed credit, then on your permission, they can start charging you. So that's the reason they request you to link a credit card. So once you are done with having a Gmail account which is linked to a credit card, you can then visit the URL cloud.google.com. Once you're there, click on Get Started for Free button on the top right corner. Let's do that. It will show you the features of it. It gives you actually the access to all cloud platform products. And today we are only going to cover a couple of it, like the Cloud DNS and the Google Cloud Compute Engine. But you get access to data analytics, you get access to machine learning, Google Maps API, apps, functions, serverless, whatnot. So later you can experiment the other aspects as well, other services as well, and you get a huge credit for free. It's like $300 over the next 12 months you can spend. And there is not going to be an auto charge after free trial ends. So don't worry at all. Hit click, provide your email address and your password. Uh-oh. Well, just so that you are not surprised, I already have my account set up for utilizing this free Google Cloud Platform for a year. And you can see in Indian rupees what is the available credit available. So, so this is the first task of setting up your GCP account, which was very simple and very intuitive. Is just follow the instructions available when you visit cloud.google.com. Yes. So now let's roll it. The second most important step is to set up the virtual machine using the web console. We have a lot of option to set up the virtual machine, but uh, let's try the easy one to begin with. So For that, once you are in the dashboard, like I've clicked on Google Cloud Platform, now I'm in the dashboard page, and this is the dashboard. You can click on the navigation menu, which is like the hamburger with three horizontal bars on the top left. Click on it. Click on the compute engine. I have pinned the compute engine, so you are seeing it on the top. Otherwise, you would generally see it down below in the compute section. Under compute engine, you have to select VM instances because that's what is the objective. Now, once you are in this VM instance page, click on create. A new form will pop up. In this, provide the name of your virtual machine. So please note that if you want to host a site, a domain name like say Rohit PMP. So rohitpmp.com. So give that name as the instance name here. Then after that, you have to pick the region and the zone. People generally select the region based on um, which is the area, which is the region where you are going to get most of the traffic. Like if you're going to serve customers in Asia region, you can select a server close to that particular country from where your most of your users would be hitting, so that the response time um, would be better for the maximum of your users. But if you want to look at the cost-effective solution, then I would go for something like US Central 1 and zone being US Central 1A. After that, if pricing is the option, you can go with this default option. After that, you have the option to select the machine family. In this machine type, select the first one, F1-micro. That's part of the shared core, not the standard. I'm good with shared core. The requirement that I have will be served by shared core itself. So I'll select this. The moment you change your selections in terms of region or machine type or the disk type, the change in pricing will get displayed. You can even see the details of how it is coming to a 4.28 monthly estimate. So it's actually 5.55, and by default it shows 10 GB standard persistent disk, which is charged at 0.4 dollar per month. And if you're going to use it for a pretty long period, then Google will give you a 30% discount on the estimated cost. So it will come down to 4.28. I'm not going to just go with 10 GB. Neither I'm interested to have Debian. I like CentOS, so I will click on change. I would select CentOS here. Boot disk type is SSD, which I would need. And I will be happy with a 30 GB disk size. I'll change that and I'll hit on select. So now you are going to see the new revised pricing, which will come to $8.98 per month, still less than $10. Now, if you scroll down, you will see the option of firewall. By default, all incoming traffics from outside a network is blocked. Hence, keep both the options of allowing HTTP traffic and allow HTTPS traffic to be checked. Why HTTP and HTTPS? Because you are going to build a web server, so you would definitely need the 80 and 443 ports opened. So select that, and now down below, just down below that, you are seeing management, security, disk, networking, and sole tenancy. Click on it, go for networking tab. In this, select the network interfaces, change primary internal IP to say the available 10.128.0.2, or you can even reserve a static internal IP address from a pool. I already have one, so I'm going to use this. If you do not see any IP address listed, you can just click on reserve static internal IP address. Go for having a static public IP because you don't want the public IP to keep changing all the time. So because all your DNS names all will be redirected to that public IP. So let's try to have a, a static public IP. So in that case, either select already available static public IP from standard tier, or you can click on create IP address. And remember, if you are going for clicking on create IP address, you should go for standard tier, which will be closer to the region, which will be part of the region where you where you are going to set up your virtual machine, and the region is US Central 1, and hence you are seeing by selecting standard, which I did earlier, it is showing that this IP range is from US-Central 1. So once you are done with selecting the primary internal IP and external IP, click done under the network interface, and that is what you need to select. Now you are good to go with hitting the last button, which is create. It will take few seconds to build and prepare your first cloud server, which you have given a name as Rohit PMP. That would become your host name for this particular CentOS box as well. So just give it a while, and that will so now you are done with two um, steps: setting up the GCP account with the Gmail account linked to a credit card. You have set up this virtual machine using the web console, and after this, the moment this particular VM machine is up and running, you have to then carry out the next task of initiating the SSH connection to this particular virtual machine. And we will look at the option of upgrading this particular Linux with the latest packages which are pre-installed. Generally, you will also find that when you attempt to update the packages, you will notice that most of the Linux packages are already updated. Google is very good with that. You may not see that in other cloud hosting providers. You in few others you may have to let that yum update run for a while, but here it is not the case. So here you go, you see the tick mark, which means this instance is up and running, and this is your first virtual machine, a very thin machine, yet very powerful. You will notice that. And it has an external IP along with an internal IP. So if you want to initiate the SSH connection, just click on this SSH option. A new browser window will open. Let me drag and drop it here. It takes a couple of seconds to transfer the SSH key so that the session starts here. So the moment you're connected, as I said, it takes a couple of seconds. So right now you're logged in as Rohit CCNP, which is nothing but your Gmail account ID on the host Rohit PMP. This is the host name that you had specified, isn't it? We have specified. Sorry, I have specified. So now, since we wanted to update all the packages here, so let's get into the sudo root mode by issuing the command sudo blank space with the flag -i. So now you can see that you are now having the root privileges. You're logged in as root now. So here, just issue the command yum update. Let it run. See, it did not take a lot of time and there were not many packages to be updated. Just a couple of it, some 9 packages that it had to update. It was pretty fast. Let me clear this page. Okay, good. So our virtual machine is up. We are able to connect to the virtual machine. We were able to update the packages. What next? And we know that it's a very thin machine. It has just 30 gig of disk space. And if we look at the CPU, it's a shared virtual CPU. It's, if you look at the utilization, it's not much, right? It's just 0% as of now. So there is, I issued the command top to see the CPU utilization. There is another interesting, very good command. It gives you some visual indicator as well, which is htop. It may not work until unless you install it. So yum is your package manager here. Just as you have in Windows add and remove programs. So on Linux we have yum, or we can use package, or we can use apt-get if we are in Ubuntu or some other variant. I love yum. I don't have to type uh, package, which is like more number of characters. So I just enjoy with yum. So I'll just go for yum. Install. So we want htop, right? Let's install yum install htop. Say yes by typing y, press enter, done. We have installed htop. Now let's run this. Okay, so CPU is 0.7% utilized. Good. Still not 100%. That's nice. Out of 614, 587 is usable and 165 MB is utilized. We have something called swap, SWP. It is swap file. What is swap file? It's just a space on your hard disk, which is your SSD here, which is used when we run out of physical RAM memory. So whenever a Linux system runs out of RAM, the inactive pages from RAM are moved to this swap space so that you still continue to get the best performance from what minimal RAM that you have. So, and okay, so as I told you about swap, right now you are seeing that we do not have anything allocated. It it shows 0 kilobyte for swap memory. So we should allocate uh, a good amount of space for the swap memory as well. So let's get out from this particular htop command. The syntax is F10. Press function F10 in your Mac. Now here, in order to um, allocate swap file, first see if the swap is already enabled, which we saw in htop that it was not, but let's still do a check by running this command, swap on blank space hyphen hyphen show. You didn't get any display. There was empty display here. So that means it's definitely not up, which we also saw in htop output. So now always when you are playing with yum or you are trying to add on something like a swap on file and all, ensure that you are having the root privileges, which we have already done by running the command sudo blank space hyphen I. So now we have to create a file which will be used as swap space. So say dd. So please be very diligent in copying this same command as you see. It's the syntax has to be the same. There should not be any change. You should not add any blank space. You should not miss any blank space. So just follow what you are seeing. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to allocate 4 GB for the swap file. Well, that will be an overkill because if we allocate a lot of hard disk under swap file, it's not going to increase the performance by many folds. So let's not overdo. Let's make it just 2 GB. So this is the command to create the file, which will be used as swap space. Press enter. It will take a minute or two to uh, prepare that particular file because it's a 2 GB file that it is going to build and allocate. So just wait for a couple of minutes on the time that it is going to take. But so far, you must have experienced building a virtual machine, a server, was like a couple of minutes job. It's because of cloud computing that we are seeing this happening in front of our eyes. Otherwise, in the traditional data center world, when we were supposed to build data centers, it used to take 3 months to just get a server built and shipped to the data center. And then comes the task of placing it in the um, rack, connecting it to the network, ensuring the power cabling is in place. So now here, everything was made available in a couple of minutes. And now we also have the swap file setup created. Now, we talk about cloud being not so secure. Many people have that fear. Well, security is a shared responsibility between the cloud provider and the user or administrator. So let's also do our part. So let's try to secure this particular swap file that we have just created by changing the um, uh, privileges of reading and writing to this swap file only by the root user. So that's what we are saying, chmod 600 blank space slash swap file. We have changed the mode. Now, the next step is to set up the Linux swap area on the file. And for that, the command is mkswap, again the swap file name that we had specified in the beginning. To that, it has set it up. Now we should activate this particular swap file, which is again very easy to do. Use the command swap on slash the name of the file slash swap file. Okay, you didn't see any response, right? So just double check if it is really up and running. Well, yes, you remember when you first attempted swap on hyphen hyphen show, there was no output at all. But now, after creating the file, after changing the permission to root, after uh, making that swap file, and after activating it, you are seeing that the swap file is a file system with a size of 2 gigs and the priority is -2. So that's like the swappiness. We need not get into that detail, but you can always research about swappiness and the usage of it. Yeah. So this is how you set up swap space. And as we discussed in the beginning, that swap is nothing but just a space on a disk that is used when we run out of physical RAM memory. And whenever a Linux system runs out of memory, which in our case is very limited, 587 MB RAM, it will start moving all the inactive pages from the physical RAM to this swap space. So it's always good to have the swap space in place. So now once you are done with this, ensure that this particular swap allocation that you have just done is retained by Linux even when this particular Linux instance is rebooted. So it is not yet saved to the Linux file system. You have to do that manually. And as a it's again a very simple exercise. You need to just use VI editor. As you know, every device on a Linux operating system is actually having all the attributes stored in a file. So even for swap, we have to store the information in fstab, which is there in the folder /etc. So use VI editor. Now we have to actually insert one line in the last of this file. So in order to go to the last end of the file, you can use the shortcut Shift GA. So you can see the cursor has moved to the last end of the file by using the shortcut Shift GA. Otherwise, you would have to use the up arrow, down arrow, left, right, and all that. So once you have reached the end of the file, you can either use the command A to append or I to insert. And you have to go to the next line. So press enter. In this new line, enter the reference of the swap file use the same syntax, same method, which you are seeing here. You can always pause and take a note of this particular line that you have to enter in the last. And if you see you have entered it correctly, you need to save this particular file. And in VI editor, if you want to save, press escape key. So now you're out from this insert mode. Click on colon, and then the command is to save is W, and the command to quit is Q. So put that WQ, press enter, the file is saved. So even when you reboot your machine, it, it will still, once it is up and running, it will still show you the swap space. Now let's verify it. Let's validate it by running the command htop again. So now you can see again that in the swap, you are seeing that now the allocated swap file is 2 GB. Yeah. So, this is more like priming your virtual machine so that you get the most out of this virtual machine, which is yet very light, but going to be highly reliable, and uh, the performance is also going to be optimal. So that's why we are playing with ensuring the swap is in place, the packages are all updated with that yum update, and now with this swap file creation and activation, and even storing it in the etcfs tab. Yeah, so now let's quit from this by pressing function F10. Now we know that when this web server, it doesn't have the FTP service right now running, or the most popular web services is Apache, that is not yet installed on this server. But uh, a kind of a prerequisite is to ensure that Google Cloud Platform has the firewall rules updated to allow uh, the FTP traffic to traverse and reach this particular virtual machine. So in order to do that, we need to click on again the hamburger icon in the Google Cloud Console, go down to the VPC network, under networking, select firewall rules. On the top you are seeing, so before you go there, you are seeing that there are some default firewall rules already set up. Most of them are ingress, like the traffic coming towards the virtual machine. For HTTP, HTTPS, ICMP, which is used for ping, and then there are some internal traffic allowed, because that's how all the traffic to internet through Google Cloud MPLS network goes out and comes in. RDP access and SSH access, by default, they are all allowed. But now you have to add rules by clicking on create firewall rule. So you have to start with giving a name to this rule. So it can be allow, say, FTP. Now come down to targets. It is asking you for which target tag. You say all instances in the network. For the source IP range, if it is coming from any to me, and then it is asking which TCP port. So as you named it above, allow FTP. So provide the FTP TCP ports 2021. Click on create. It will take few seconds to add that rule there. And you don't only need FTP, you also need to allow the web control panel. And that also we want to set up here, right? Just on the likes of cPanel and Plesk, there is a free web control panel that we want to enable. But that control panel uses port number 8083. So that also we need to allow. So again, we will click on create firewall rule, give it a name, allow web CP, come to target, select all instances in the network, IP range is fine. Source IP range again will be from any, and TCP, oh sorry, I did a mistake. There was an additional dot after the last octet. Yeah, now it is correct. TCP, provide the port 88083 and click on create. Good. We are done with setting up the rules in advance to allow the FTP traffic, to allow the traffic for the web control panel that we are going to set up soon, or the virtual machine. So this was part of the prerequisite. Another step is to set up the Google Cloud DNS. Google Cloud DNS changes happens. Uh, it can take from few minutes to few hours to a couple of days to be active. So better try to set it up really fast, provided you also have access to your um, registrar, domain registrar from where you have purchased the domain. So we wanted to set up rohitpmp.com. You can see that there are already some 3 entries. So I'll just create a new zone. That's the first step. So first we have to give the zone name as rohitpmp, and then in the DNS name we have to give the full name like rohitpmp.com, and then in the description section you can leave it blank, click on create. Good. So now you are seeing that after setting up this particular zone detail, uh, the list of name servers from Google is displayed. That means we also have to set up the Google name. We have to update our name.com. Like I have registered, I have purchased the domain names through name.com. So I'm going to log into my name.com interface. I'm going to select my domain name rohitpmp.com. I have to manage the name server. I have to update this name server by clicking on add name server. Sorry, I did not specify the name server. So what are the name servers? There are 4 name servers which Google wants us to satisfy. It is in an order C1, C2, C3, C4. Click on add name server, click on add name server. Just ensure that you type it correctly. Add name server. Should not create duplicate entries, although it will not allow you, but still as a precaution, be careful while entering the domain name server record in the name server, else your system will break. Uh, the old um name server record, which was pointing to a different uh, web hosting provider, let me delete that, because that's the whole reason of setting up this virtual machine, so that I don't have to depend on a web hosting provider which is actually charging me more and giving me less features and services. So I've hit the apply changes. It has saved it. It may take a while to take into effect. So in the background, let's try to work on. Okay, so the zone detail rohitpmp.com for the DNS name is ready. Now we also need to add a record set. Adding a record set is nothing but providing the DNS name. So let's start with the root domain, which is rohitpmp.com. Specify the public IP of the host machine, which we have just set up. So I remember this is the public IP that I have used, which I saw in that particular virtual machine. While creating the virtual machine, we did allocate this, right? So I'll provide this, click on create. This got created, 35209.1.56. Let me check if that's correct. 35. Oh no, that's not correct. That's what I had a doubt. It is 46. Save. So if you recall the uh, diagram, so we as visitors in our browser, we will try to open rohitpmp.com. You are seeing this domain name here, rohitpmp.com. So this will hit the cloud DNS for resolving the name. How? Because the request actually first goes to the name registrar, and the registrar was name.com. When the request reaches here, it finds out that actually now it has to be forwarded to the name server, which is hosted in googledomains.com under nscloud-c1. It goes out there. So as you have seen that this is not the only zone detail that we are setting up. There are already 3 of it available. So for every zone detail, you have to validate the request is for Rohit PMP or it is for Rohit.click. So we look at the data which is available with us in terms of name server record. So this is what you had set up. So it will come here. Now here in this A record, it will notice that now I have to forward the traffic to this particular public IP. And this public IP is um, the static IP allocated to the newly set up virtual machine. Yeah, so that's the whole objective of setting up Cloud DNS. So this step has to be repeated for all the domain names that you want to host. Like I have added uh, 3 more here. I have more to add. I'll add it slowly. So now we have 4 domains here which are added in our zone. sorry, in the Cloud DNS zone. And every zone has its own A record. And the good thing is all the A record points to the same virtual machine because we are going to use the same virtual machine to host multiple websites. And we will also see how the CPU utilization changes. Yeah. So if you feel comfortable with how you are going to set up a zone detail, you can move to the next section because our server and network, both of them are primed enough to become to make this particular virtual machine a fully fledged web server for serving multiple websites. And in order to do that, we have to start with, let's just open the Google Cloud Platform Dashboard. I've just clicked here. I have let it remain open and run. So now what we are going to do is come back to the SSH, clear the screen. So now we are coming to the most interesting part. We have to install the free web control panel, which is going to make our work very easy. So we have to install, first download the installation script from, let me specify, pub, sorry, Vista cp.com pub/vs install sh. Yep, it got copied. Let's change it to be executed. Install chmod -install sh. Done. Now let's run this command script. What happened? Chmod 755 vs-install.sh. Tuk, 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 tuk. Chmod, I've done it. Oh, sorry, my bad. Uh, I did not I did not download the right file. Now I have downloaded the right file. It is vst-install. Okay, let's come here. Let's chmod the right file which I have downloaded just now, vst-install. Now let's run this vst-install. Yeah, using the bash. Good. What is this? Okay, Vista control panel. This is a free control panel, okay? Unlike cPanel and Plesk, this is free. It is going to give you the nginx web server, as I was telling you. It's one of the most reliable reverse proxy load balancer that uh, multiple enterprises are using. It is capable to handle thousands of requests in a second. Definitely, we need the Apache web server in the back as a backend. So you know about Airbnb, right? How many uh, room bookings are happening through Airbnb in a second is like uncountable at times. So during the peak season, of course. So that there it is Nginx which is powering that. So that is going to get installed Apache Web Server, Bind DNS server, Exim Mail server, Davecode, POP3 IMAP server. Let me also show you that network diagram and bring this particular, sorry. Yeah, so all this Apache, Nginx, bind diagram, MariaDB, mail, FTP server, all these will get installed. So that's what is listed here, even the IP table firewall. And this Softaculous plugin, this allows you to install WordPress, Joomla, Bulletin Board. There are some 439 scripts by just selecting the script, click and shoot kind of a option available will allow you to install all those on fly. So if you want all that to be installed on this particular virtual machine in a Ziffy, just go with yes, enter the admin email ID. I would like to give my personal email ID here. Uh, I will give my FQDN as rohitpmp.com and not the internal domain, a fully qualified domain name. So this is what you should also do. Give your uh, domain name uh, in this particular response. Oh, installation will take about 15 minutes. Is that true? I don't think so. It's not going to take 15 minutes. For that, I have not set up the swap file. Definitely not 15 minutes. So as per my clock, it is 23:18 IST. Let's see how long does it take. Okay, it's running a lot of package installer commands via the script. It will take a couple of minutes, but definitely not 15 minutes. So what all things have we done so far? We started with setting up the GCP account using Gmail, which is linked to our credit card. Then after setting up a free GCP account, which allows us $300 credit over the next 12 months, that also with no auto charge feature. So the moment our free trial ends, Google will prompt us if we want to continue. And when we say continue, that means the billing cycle will start based on the services that we are using at that moment. And as you know, in Google Cloud, it is pay per use uh, option that is there. So we did the GCP account setup. We have set up the VM using Web Console by going to the navigation menu, by selecting the compute engine, VM instance, provided the VM instance name, same as our uh, domain name. We have selected the region and zone. That also we did based on whether the traffic is going to hit us more from a certain region or we are more focused towards having a low priced solution available. So I had gone for the lowest price. And then we went to select the machine type. Have started with small. Since I have the option to scale as and when required. So I started with just one shared virtual CPU and a 614 MB RAM. And the boot disk, I had changed the operating system from Debian to CentOS 7, and I have selected SSD disk with 30 GB rather than just a default standard disk with 10 GB is what I have done. And then I went to allow HTTP as well as HTTPS traffic under the firewall. And in the networking tab, I have selected the network interface, the primary internal IP address to reserve a static internal IP address and external IP address. I have clicked on creating a new IP address with a by giving a name and selecting the standard option. Always remember that in the network service tier, uh, we have to select the standard option and not the premium option. And then hit reserve to have a static public IP allocated to your newly built cloud server, a virtual machine. And then we tried doing the SSH to the newly set up cloud VM. And after doing the SSH, we ensured that we are on the latest version. So for that, we went to the root privilege mode by issuing the command sudo hyphen minus I hyphen I, and then issued the command yum blank space update, yum blank space update. And after that, as we know that our memory, physical memory RAM is just 614 MB, which actually in fact usable was 587 MB, we have set up swap file, which was nothing but uh, a space dedicated on the hard disk to be utilized when the Linux runs out of RAM. So all the inactive pages are moved to the RAM, move from RAM to the swap space. So we enabled it. We also saved it in the FS tab entry in the etc folder, so that even after reboot, this swap is in place. And in order to see a visual indication of what is the CPU utilization, swap utilization, we had also installed a package called htop by issuing the command yum install htop. And if we run the htop, it gives us the um, the output with the clear indication of how much CPU is utilized, how much memory is utilized, and what is the swap utilization as well. And now, after that, we had also done the firewall rules, enabling the FTP traffic, enabling the web control panel, which is Vista uh, port o over this particular domain name that we had enabled. We had set up the Cloud DNS by creating a new uh, zone, and in that zone we had also set up a record pointing to the public IP address of the virtual machine for that particular host name, sorry, domain name, which we intend to set up here. And you also notice that I have already set up 3 more domain to be pointed to the same public IP. And soon after that, we went for installing this Vista CP by first downloading the installation script. And as I told you, right, that please follow the steps diligently. I missed a T while downloading the script from the Vista CP website. So it was not able to run. So we downloaded that particular Vista uh, install script. We changed the um, file to executable mode by issuing the command chmod 755 and the file name, and then we ran it. And we went for selecting yes option to install all the softwares that it had displayed. And we provided the email address, we provided the fully qualified domain name, and it's mentioned that it is going to take 15 minutes, but actually I noticed that it started at 23:18 my time, and it ended at around 23, uh, 23. So that's like in 5 minutes it was done. And don't clear the screen. You should take a note of this URL as well as the username and the first time password as a reference for you to log in to this Vista control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just save this password. Okay, good. So now we can visit the URL. Uh, so since we have not yet set up the rohitpmp.com with the right name server on the host, so try to access this for the first time using the public IP and the port number 8083. Remember, we have allowed this uh, 8083 traffic. Any traffic coming from outside to this internal network over port 8083 is allowed. So just try hitting it. Yeah, so you will see this message because because it is actually HTTPS traffic that is getting initiated. So since there is no certificate installed, you will see this notice. So just ignore, click on visit this site because we know that it is a safe heaven. So give the username as admin, paste the password that you had copied earlier. Bingo, you are logged in to your control panel, which allows you access to control not only the user, which is right now admin, you can actually change the password of it. Say, Romeo Juliet is the password that you wanted. Remove the blank space. What is this? Default name server. It says ns1.domain.tld. Well, this is wrong. It should not be the case, but don't worry. Changes have been saved by pressing enter. Let's go to web. Here this website entry already exists. Let's edit it. And what we intend to edit is web. Oh, DNS. We actually have to edit the DNS record for rohitpmp.com. And what is that we have to enter? The state of authority ns1.domain.tld is the default one which is listed here, but we have to change it to, remember, come to network services, Cloud DNS, go to Rohit PMP zone, see what Google has provided you as the SOA entry, which is here. This is your SOA entry, which is nothing but the name server, the first particular name server. So replace it with this, hit save. So we went to DNS, we updated the SOA entry so that it gets mapped to the right name server. Let's attempt rohitpmp.com. Wow. So I told you, right, that in name.com, the domain registrar where we have purchased, when we were updating the new name server record which Google had specified, we did it in the beginning as a prerequisite task because it takes a while to get that name server change replicated on the multiple DNS servers across the world. So it actually got pushed even to my ISP's DNS server now. Hence, when I queried rohitpmp.com, my ISP's DNS server could also now redirect the request to this Vesta CP. So that's how this site is up and responding. But this is just one domain. And we all were talking about hosting multiple websites here. I'm not seeing it. How to add another website? Well, you are seeing something here, plus icon, and it says add web domain. So it's all very intuitive, right? If you want to do any changes, updates for web, you have to click on the web, come down here, or say in this existing Rohit PMP, you can edit, you can suspend, delete, you can enable FTP, you can enable statistics, you can enable SSL support for rohitpmp.com. Whatever is the requirement, you can do that. It's all point and click interface that you get so that you are not annoyed or disturbed with the cryptic commands that you have tried here. So let's look at the history. How many commands did you try? Not many actually. So you started with yum update, you did a clear, you did the disk space utilization, you checked the CPU utilization by top, you checked the htop, you tried to run htop, although it was not installed. So you installed htop by executing the command yum install htop. Yum install, as I mentioned earlier, is like add remove programs in Windows. And then you were able to run the htop. Oh, with that, let's see what's the CPU utilization. When we run the command, it shows a high CPU utilization, but now it has come down to like what? 1.3%, 0.7%. It's not 100%, right? And what's the memory utilization? 373 MB. What's the swap memory? It's 10.2 MB. So all the inactive pages from memory RAM is now getting pushed to swap also. If we have not set up swap, then it would have been showing 383 MB utilized from our 587. Now with just one web site running, it is already taking half of it. Are you worried? You should be, because your half memory is already gone and it's just one website. It's actually not one website. You are also running the Vesta control panel. So it's actually two, but don't worry. Let's continue to add more website. Let me quit F10. Oh, before adding the another website, let's also go through a few other commands. We use swap on -- show. We found that swap memory was not created, file was not created. So we created the swap file for with dedicating 2 GB. We changed the swap file permission of read and write only for root user. We made the swap file. We activated the swap file with swap on command. And when we executed swap on -- show again, we could see 2 GB was allocated. We edited the etc. fs tab file with that particular entry around swap file, swap, blank space swap, defaults 0, 0 entry in the last. We saved the file by again clicking on escape and :wq. We went on to download this is the step number 20. This is the right command because the file name is correct, vst-install. We change the file to be executable with chmod 755, and then we executed the command using bash. So this is the set of commands that we have run so far. It's actually minus 1, 2, 3, 20 odd commands. And our web server is ready with the ability to host multiple websites. Let's try hosting another one. So once we are in the web section, we can click on add web domain. So let's host rohit.click. I have this domain already pointed. DNS, mail support, yes, add. It's added, good. Let's look at the DNS also, right? Rohit.click, edit. Okay, so now we again have to update the SOA record for it. How do we get the SOA record for it? So we again have to go to Google Cloud Platform, navigation menu, network services, Cloud DNS. So we are already there. So let's look at the Rohit.click. So this is the SOA entry, as you can see here as well, SOA ns-cloud e1. So let's come here, replace it with the right SOA entry, hit save. Changes have been saved. Now let's try to see. Well, it's just few seconds that I have brought this change. Let's see if it works. Oh yes, it works. It's that fast. If your domain registrar changes, which I had shown by going to name.com, has been done, say 15 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours before, then this redirection happens really, really fast. So see, this is up and running. Let's add few more domains. Right now, 2 websites are running here. Let's add one more. Which more? Which one? eGov India, okay. Let's also copy this SOA entry because we would need it. I remember the domain name. I'll type it here. I'll click add. Added. Let's go to DNS for updating the record. Edit. SOA entry to be replaced. Save. Edit. Let's add one more. What is this? Uttam Online. Okay, let's copy this. Control C. Come here. Yeah, we are in the web. Click on add web domain. Provide the full domain name here. Click on add. Go to DNS. Go to edit. Update the domain name here. The SOA entry here. Save. And let's double check if they are responding. Yes, the default page which gets added the moment we set up any website through the control panel. It's running. There was one eGov India. Yeah, this is also running. Nice. Okay, let's also monitor the CPU utilization. The command is htop. Is it very heavy CPU utilization? No, right? Just 0.7, 1.3. Memory is 366, just half. It's not too much. Let's, no, I'll not log out immediately from this another web server. What I would like to do is, well, come to web again, uh, rohitpmp.com, right? Additional FTP. FTP is not yet added the additional FTP. So we can see that we have added 4 websites. We have updated the DNS record to point to the right name server. Uh, would we not like to see how we can update the web pages? Because right now it just shows a default web page. So yes, we would, isn't it? So let's go edit it. Click on additional FTP. I will give it Rohit PMP. The username would be admin underscore Rohit PMP. I will say Romeo Juliet. I don't need the blank space. This, let it be default. Click on save. It says FTP account has been set up. So let's see the FileZilla. Where is Mr. FileZilla? Oh, sorry, it's here only. Mhm. Just a minute. I need to go to the right folder. I'll show it to you, don't worry. 18th, I need to copy one file. Finder. Ta-da-ta-da. 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 Index. Control C. I'll go to documents. Ta-da-ta-da. 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 Just a minute. Just a minute. We are doing live demo. So it can be time taxing. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm ready. Okay. Okay, delete. Yes. Okay, so I'm using FTP client FileZilla in this sorry, I'll show you from beginning. When we open this, we have the option to go to File Site Manager. In this, we have to create a new site. Now here in the host section, rohitpmp.com is what we want to access, right? This is fine. Yeah, change it to only use plain FTP. Provide the username that we have just set up, PMP. Password was Romeo Juliet. Let's see if I've typed it correctly. Come to transfer settings, select active, transfer settings active, general, FTP, let it be there. Provide the host name, or you can also provide the public IP address. Ensure the encryption is set to only use plain FTP. Provide the username and password. Try to connect. Okay. Okay. Okay, so good. So this left side is your local systems folders. This right side is your um, cloud servers folder, and public HTML is the folder where you need to upload all the web pages. Okay, so index.html is the default index.html that right now you are able to see. rohitpmp.com. So this is the default one that gets created by Vesta CP. Now, if you have a site ready, so just select all the files, folders, drag and drop. It is asking you, do you want to replace index? Say okay, because that's what you want to do. Doesn't take a lot of time depending on the bandwidth available at your side. So if you have a good internet speed, it really gets uploaded pretty fast. Let me tell you what is the total file size, that particular folder that we are trying to upload. Get info. It's just a 5 MB file folder, but since there are so many files, close to 60 plus, it will take few seconds to upload by validating each file also, because it's TCP handshake which happens using when you are using FTP. So yeah, it takes just few seconds to do that. You are now left with some 2 MB, 2.1 MB files to be uploaded. So how many files, actual files? It's 14, 12. So this is the way you can upload files, folders, the web pages to your newly set up virtual machine. Oh, good, we're done. Let's try to reload this. Okay, so it's loaded. So this is me, and this is my website, which is up and running. Interest. Yeah, so just for your knowledge, AWS and Azure is something that I love I love more than what I was showing you today. So in case if you want to get in touch with me to learn again for free on AWS and Azure or DevOps, be it Jenkins, Docker, Ansible, Terraform, do get in touch. Or even if you want me to build a chatbot for you on your Facebook page or something, I'm here to help you. Yeah. And I have some blog page and all that you can use. Yeah. So this is me, and I just close it. Let's also see again once again what, and I think we are good with this. Let's log out. Let's see now what is the utilization. Oh, see, the moment I have logged out from there, some 70 megabyte of memory has been released. It was earlier 370 megabytes, right? So now it's just 300 MB. So we are actually ready with a lightweight yet very, very powerful web server on the cloud with all configurations in place in within say less than it took us less than 100 minutes actually to do that. And see, the memory utilization is going down. But if you were not using nginx um, over Apache, then this memory utilization would have been very high, CPU utilization would have been very high. So it is nginx that is helping us still provide a very good performance. And definitely swap file also does a lot of favor to us. Yeah. So yeah, we are ready with this web server and you can use it for actually hosting very good fat sites, be it web server, WordPress, Joomla, or whatever that you want. And you can do mail configurations and all that. And there is a lot more to test, which I'm leaving for you to make you even stronger in this web hosting solution provider world. And like as I mentioned, that you can try to make this FTP I showed you that I used in the encryption open file share. You can make it secure. You can set up mail accounts. You can keep a tab on the resource utilization. You can configure alerts. Actually, sky is the limit. So, hope this session helped you to enjoy the cloud journey. Please feel free to share your comments and feedback on this YouTube page. Plus, I'll also be putting this stuff on LinkedIn in form of text, and that you can use it as a handy reference to all the commands that I have used here and the steps that I had used on Google Cloud platform. So till we meet again, I wish you all the best and keep in touch, be connected. Thank you. And